Hey guys, FatsoGamer here. This is part 2 of my series, How to Buy Games with Very Little Money, and this part is buying games. So in this episode, we're going to cover know your buying platform, know your niche, know your gold and your poo, negotiating, and at the end, I'm going to give you a bonus tip on what to do if you get somewhere to pick something up and it's not as you expect. So the following episode, so next week's episode will be on a Monday or Tuesday again, just depending because I do upload a new video every 2 days, and that will cover basically a case study. So I'll give you a day in the life of, so I'll go through everything pre-recorded but live as I'm messaging people and valuing things. I'll tell you what I value them at, and I'll also be giving you a tutorial on a spreadsheet that I use that I've sort of showed a little bit in previous videos, and I'll explain how to use that, it basically prices games up for you a lot quicker than you can yourself, so you can actually get an accurate price before you go out there, and I'll be giving a copy of that to everyone as well. So if you haven't already subscribed, please make sure to subscribe and also hit the little bell so that you'll get notifications for the next episode. Okay, let's get into it. First thing you want to do is know which platform you're using. And by platform, I don't mean which console. I mean where you're going to buy your games. So I'll go through a little bit of what I do throughout the way. And then I'll throw in other options as well. So the platform that I use to buy the majority of my games is called Gumtree. So it's an Australian platform, similar to like OfferUp, Craigslist sort of thing. Basically, people list things on there. It's not something where like eBay where you purchase it and then they send it to you. You've got to drive there, pick it up, and it's exchange of cash. Reason why I like Gumtree is because there are certain things in it where you can use it to your advantage. So with Gumtree, what happens is it automatically puts up for people the most recent ads. So good thing for that is someone lists something, goes straight to the top. Bad thing is, especially on the weekend, if you're selling something, you list it on the Saturday morning, by Sunday, it's already on page 4. And that's how I pick up a lot of things. So for example, I might see something and it's like a Xbox 360 with a ton of games and it's overpriced. Then what I'll do is I'll save that. So I'll save it for later because I know that they'll get some inquiry, if any, and you know they'll sort of dismiss them because they'll want to go for that higher money. Then once their inquiry dries up and no one's inquiring, usually a week or two, then I'll send them a realistic offer. And most of the time they're so sick of having the ad up there, they just want it out of their hair, and I'll go and collect it. Because the thing you've got to realize as well, a lot of these people that are selling these games, they're not collectors like you and I. They don't know the value of it. For them, it's, I've got this box of crap sitting in my storeroom. I don't want it there anymore. If I can get $50 today for it and it's gone, then I've solved 2 problems. So, you know, you've got to really think of it from their perspective. Other platforms you can use, obviously eBay. There's a trick that I use with eBay. Usually eBay is the most expensive option, but there is one way you can get it a little bit cheaper. I look for items that are pickup only in different states, and I'll actually organize my own transport. So that way it sort of stops any competition, especially if it's in a rural area, so isolated and far away from a city. There won't be a lot of people bidding on it. By organizing your own courier, and of course you have to know how much that's going to cost beforehand, you can actually scoop up a bit of a bargain. The other platform I sometimes use is Facebook. So Facebook has its own marketplace on there. I think it's called something different in different regions, but this is sort of like my smash and grab one. So I'll look on there for things that people might put up for cheap. So a lot of times it might be like teenagers that need money for going out. They're selling things pretty cheap, and that's not usually much negotiating. That's just being there in the right time, knowing what it is, and then grabbing it. So the other thing that I sometimes do with Facebook is sometimes people can miscategorize video games. So they'll put them into like toys and board games instead of video games. And then no one looking for video games actually finds them unless they're looking for something specific. So sometimes I'll go into that and just have a look what's there, see if there are any consoles, and you can usually snap them up cheap. The thing I dislike about Facebook, obviously you're using your own profile so people know who you are. So it's not as anonymous as apps like Gumtree and things like that. With Gumtree, I'll send out several offers. at a time, and no one really knows it's me. Sometimes it's might be the same person or something like that. So I always like remaining anonymous, which is why I don't always use Facebook. But the point is, you've got to know your platform, and you've got to know the strengths and weaknesses for sellers and buyers on that. So you've really got to identify where you can sort of leverage your advantage and get games for cheap. Okay, the next section is know your niche. So you've got to know your niche, but you've got to also expand sideways to grow your collection. What do I mean by expand sideways? So I started with Xbox 360. However, I would also in the beginning start looking at PlayStation 3 and Wii games because they're out around the similar time. And you can sort of, by knowing how much Xbox 360 games for, you have a good idea how much PS3 and Wii games will sell for comparatively as well. So that would be the same for, if you're collecting Nintendo 64, well, you could probably pick up Super Nintendo games as well. And that will help bolster your collection. So it not only helps you have more things in your collection, but also helps you have more things to sell, which means you'll have more profit to buy more games. With your niche as well, it's important to research how much all the hardware sells for. When I say hardware, I mean everything individually. So things like for Xbox 360, I'll just list some of the things that I would note down the prices of. So controllers, how much they sell for. Hard drive, the internal ones and the ones that clip on the old ones. Wi-Fi adapters, even things for like your older systems like power supplies, audio visual cables. For 64, you've got expansion packs. For PlayStation 2, you've got network adapters. All these things you need to know base prices of in order for you to be able to value things appropriately so that you can sell them. Because the best thing to do when you first start off, basically you want to buy something. So whether it be an Xbox 360 or what have you, you want to be able to sell the hardware for the majority of what it costs you to buy the whole lot. And the way to do that is by breaking it up. So to give you an example, what I would do when I first started, so a controller back then would sell for about $30. Hard drives would sell for $50. Consoles I'd sell back on Gumtree for $50. Just with a power cable, and Wi-Fi adapters were $60. So how I worked out how much I would buy those items for is I would divide it by 3. So therefore a controller's worth $10 to me, a console's worth around about $15, Wi-Fi adapter's worth $20, and whatever the other thing, a third of that. So what I would then do as well with the games, I'd figure out what the sort of cheapest selling Xbox 360 games were. And at that time, you could pick up games on Gumtree for $5 each. Because it's local and it's cash, I would then divide that by 2. So basically it gave me a base price of around $2.50 to $3 a game. In the beginning, I just paid $3 a game because you'd sell most of them around at least $12 on eBay. So $3 a game, and then I'd look at what I was buying. So it'd be, let's say it's an Xbox 360 with 2 controllers, a hard drive, and 20 games. So 20 games to me, that's $60. 2 controllers, that's another $20. So we're at $80. Console, $15. Let's say it had a hard drive as well, so that's another $15. And that's how much I would offer for the item. Because I'd know basically I'm going to make my money back, and majority of the time people would sort of take it. If they don't take it, then there's also word tracks that you can go through, which I'll go through later in this section. But the most important thing, knowing how much everything sells for individually so that you can get your money back very quickly. The next section is know your gold and know your poo. So gold is things like certain kids games sell for a lot of money, RPGs sell for a lot of money. It's knowing and researching which games are really worth a lot of money. So basically when you're looking at something and it's got something that's limited edition, you know that it's worthwhile getting. The poo in this case is usually things like sports games. So anything FIFA, anything NBA 2K, any football, cricket, any sort of sports games, any Olympic games, usually they're not worth much. I think part of the reason because they bring like a new FIFA game every single year, it just appreciates them. And I think the longevity is just not there. Like people don't have that emotional tie-in. Do some research. Like I said in the previous one, if you haven't already, have a look at Metal Jesus Rocks. Also have a look at Radical Reggie. They do a lot of these things. A lot of these ones on rare games, and they'll have one for your platform. So have a look, know what's going to sell, know what to look for, because some of these games, especially Nintendo 64, even cart only, they'll sell for like $300-400. So if you're paying $500 for a whole kit and one of these games is worth $400, well, you're making pretty much your money back straight away. Last one we've got here is negotiating. So when you're negotiating, so that's when you first message someone, just try and make it as generic as possible. You don't want to put too much emotion in it. You don't want to bully them. You don't want to beg. You don't want to try and seem over nice. You just want to make it as plain and simple as possible so that they're not getting it all emotional. When emotions get involved, that's usually where the price sort of doesn't go in your favor. So my first message to someone always is, hi there, comma, would you take X amount for that? Then I'll wait for a response. There's a few things that happen. One, they say yes. Two, they don't respond. Or three, they ask for more money. If they don't respond, I'll leave it for a week and then usually I'll just send like a question mark. They might have been busy. They might follow up on it. If it's something I really want, then I'll contact them through another means. Sometimes I'll have like a phone number on there, so I'll message them. Or very rare that I'll call them, but if I really wanted something, I guess I would. If they counter you, so they make an offer higher than what you wanted, there's two tactics. One, if it's a reasonable price and you really want it, obviously accept the offer. I would always try and go a little bit lower, even if you're happy with the price. So I'd, if you've said, look, I'll pay 80, they've said, oh, look, I really want it for 110. Most people will meet in the middle because they'll feel too embarrassed not to. So, you could just say, oh, look, could you do 95? Chances are they'll say yes. The other tactic I use as well, so same scenario, I'll say to people, they'll send back 110. I'll wait a day before messaging back and then I'll message them and say, sorry, $80 is my limit. Most of the time they'll either come down themselves or they'll go, yeah, that's fine. The other weapon you've got as well, don't just think money, think of advantage for them. A lot of times I'll say, if I know it's a low offer, but I think I can sort of get them to do it, I'll also say, I can pick up today if that helps. So that usually to people makes them think, well, they'll say, oh, I've got this box of stuff sitting there. The wife's told me to get rid of it. I want X amount, but I can be gone with it today. It's out of my hair. I don't have to have this add up. I don't have to have people contacting me and I get some cash. Yeah, all right, just come pick it up now. So that's an advantage for people. You've always got to think of things, not only money, but, other things that you can sort of value add to people as well. Same if they want you to pay more, what you can do as well is you can leverage their time to help you out. So you might say, oh, look, 110, look, I'll pay 100 if you can drop it off to me. That saves you, maybe half an hour there, half an hour back. So an hour of your time, and that's probably worth the $20, to be honest. So there's all different ways to do it. Now, the one thing that I don't recommend doing is swaps, unless it's someone you know pretty well, because swaps are just too hard, because invariably people want more for their swap than what it's usually worth. You've got to have what they want. Better just to deal in cash. It also takes that emotion out of it as well. I would really be quite wary of swaps. So you've got to the person's house. I'm going to use the PlayStation 3 example of a 60 gigabyte backwards compatible. So this is something that's actually happened to me. Someone swears black and blue they've got a 60 gigabyte PS3. We've negotiated price. We've arranged a time. I've driven there. I get there. It's not a 60 gigabyte. What do you do? For me, I just say, look, I'm sorry. It's not what I wanted. I don't want it. I don't bother negotiating because it's too hard to think of a price off the top of your head. Because, 60 gigabyte compared to like a normal PS3, there's a good $150 difference in what you're going to sell it for, and it's too hard to work out what the games are going to be worth. Half the time they're going to get insulted. It's just going to be more awkward than what it's worth. So if you get there and it's not what you were expecting, I would usually just say politely, oh, sorry, I really was after a 60 gigabyte or whatever it is you're after. This isn't what I'm after. I'm sorry, and just leave it, because it's just not worth it. I would never usually haggle with someone at their house. I mean, different mentalities maybe, but I just want as easy and effortless as possible. And when you do this multiple times a week, you don't want to be having to, almost argue with someone face to face. You just want to go there, have a little bit of a conversation, take your games, go home, do it again. So that is my recommendation if something is different when you get there. So guys, that's the end of this episode. Remember to have a look out for next episode where I cover a day in the life of. I go through several case studies where I negotiate with people and get games very cheap. I also give you that spreadsheet that gives you an accurate price for what you should buy games at. Hey guys, thanks for watching FatsoGamer. Please hit like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next video.